I once again welcome you all on the session on the herbal drug technology. In the today's session, we are going to discuss the Schedule T, that is a good manufacturing practices for the ASU drugs, Ayurveda, Siddha, and the Unani drugs. So let us see the content related with the Schedule T, that is a good manufacturing practices of Indian systems of medicine. So here we are going to discuss the components of good manufacturing practices, then the objectives of the good manufacturing practices, then infrastructural requirements, then the working space, storage area, machineries and equipments which are being used to manufacture the Indian systems of medicine, then the standard operating procedures, then health and hygiene, documentation and records. So these are the points which we are going to discuss in the session. Let us see the learning objectives which I have set for the topic Schedule T, good manufacturing practices of Indian systems of medicine. I have set three objectives. The very first objective to understand and learn Schedule T, there is a good manufacturing practices of Indian systems of medicine. The second objective I have set as right objectives and components of Schedule T, that is a good manufacturing practices for ASU drugs. And the last objective, that is a describe infrastructural requirements, working space, storage area, machineries and equipment, standard operating procedures, health and hygiene, documentation and records. So these are the few objectives which I have set for the topic Schedule T, good manufacturing practice of Indian systems of medicine. Let us move towards the introduction to the Schedule T, that is the GMP of Indian systems of medicine. GMP stands for good manufacturing practices. Simply, in the Schedule T, we are going to discuss the good manufacturing practices which are being utilized to manufacture the Ayurveda, Siddha, and Unani systems of medicine. Like allopathic medicine, we are utilizing the GMP. There are certain rules and regulations for the manufacturing which are laid down by the authorities, and same we are implementing for the manufacturing plant of the allopathic medicine. Similarly, there are certain standards which are given by the authorities, and we have to suppose to design, construct, and apply the thing for the manufacturing of ASU drugs, that is Ayurveda, Siddha, and Unani systems of medicine. So the good manufacturing practices, that is the GMP, are prescribed as follows in part 1 and part 2 to ensure that whatever the Schedule T is there, which is for more specifically ASU drugs, there are two parts are there with objectives. Very first objective, that is the raw material used in the manufacture of drugs, should be authentic, should be of a prescribed quality, and are free from the contamination. Whatever the raw material we are using for the manufacturing of ASU drug, it should be authentic, it should be prescribed quality, and it should be of a free from the contamination. So this is the first objective for the GMP Schedule T. Then the manufacturing process is has been prescribed to maintain the standard. This Schedule T, it is going to prescribe certain manufacturing processes, isn't it? Which is going to maintain the certain standards. Then the third, that is adequate quality control measures are adopted. While manufacturing the ASU drug, one should adopt the adequate quality control processes so as to it is possible to ensure the quality of the manufactured product. The manufactured drug which is released for sale is of a acceptable quality. So if we are using all these standards, whatever the product which is being sold into the market from the ASU, which has the or which should have the acceptable quality. So these are the four objectives which are for the part 1 and part 2 of the schedule T. To achieve these objectives, each licensee, that is the manufacturer, shall evolve the methodology and procedures for following the prescribed processes of manufacture of drugs, which should be documented as a manual and kept for the reference and the inspection. So in order to achieve all these objectives, whatever the licensee or manufacturer is there, should evolve certain methodologies, should evolve certain procedures, should use the certain standards which are laid down by the regulatory authorities to manufacture the ASU drug, and should be documented as a manual and kept for the reference and the inspection during the visit. However, under the Indian Medicine Central Council Act 1970, registered Vaidyas, Siddhas, and Hakims who prepare the medicine on their own to dispense to their patients and not selling such drugs in the market are exempted from the purview of GMP. So whatever the medicines which are being prepared and sold by the Vaidyas, Siddhas, and Hakims according to the Act, that is the Indian Medicine Central Council Act, that is the IMCCA 1970, they are exempted from all these GMP from the Schedule T. So with this, let us move towards the objectives of the GMP, that is the Schedule T. So very first objective of the Schedule T to describe the manufacturing processes as per the standards. Whatever the Schedule T is there, it is going to describe the manufacturing processes as per the standards to ensure that the manufacturer use the authentic raw materials of a prescribed quality. The second objective, that is to ensure the manufacturer use the authentic raw material of prescribed quality. The quality of the raw material, it is being prescribed in the standards to ensure that raw materials used should be free from the contamination. So Schedule T ensures with the objective that it is going to ensure that the raw materials used should be free from the contamination. To adopt adequate quality control measures during the processing of drugs, during the processing of the ASU drug. So after manufacturing of the ASU drug, one should adopt the adequate quality control measures to ensure that the manufactured drug is prescribed a quality before being released for sale. So before the selling of the ASU medicine, whatever the quality of the product, it should be ensured. Further, to optimize the efficacy of the product regardless of manufacturing method. There might be variation in the manufacturing method. So one should optimize the efficacy of the product. To describe manual of the methodology, whatever the methods which are being adopted during the manufacturing should be described and which should be documented. To maintain the documentation of procedure as a manual for a reference and the inspection. Already we have covered, we have discussed all these objectives on the previous slide. Let us see the components of good manufacturing practices. So, the good manufacturing practices, Schedule T, the manufacturing plant should have sufficient space for the different processes. Here, when we are going for the manufacturing of the Ayurveda, Siddha or Unani medicine, it requires the sufficient space for the different equipment, quality control, storage, and so on. That is the manufacturing processes areas quality control section, finished goods store, office for receiving, then storing raw material, and an office for rejected goods and drug store. So these are the components of the GMP. So whatever the manufacturing is going on for the ASU drug, it should provide the sufficient space for the manufacturing processes areas, then quality control section, finished goods store, office for receiving and storing raw material, and office for rejected goods and the drug store. So these are the components of GMP. Let us see the part 1, good manufacturing practices, schedule T. As I have said that there are two parts are there, right? So in the part 1, very first point, that is the factory premises, that is the manufacturing unit. So the manufacturing plant should have the adequate space for, already we have seen under the components. So whatever the manufacturing unit is there or factory premises are there, it should provide sufficient space for receiving and storing the raw material. It should provide with the manufacturing process areas. There should be the sufficient space for the manufacturing of the ASU drugs. There should be the quality control section in order to check the quality of the raw material and the finished product. So there should be the quality control section. There should be the finished goods store, which is being separated from the raw material store. Then the office, it should be provided or supplied with the space for the office, and the last space, that is the which is for the rejected goods and the drug store. Let us see in the part 1, it is furthermore divided into the, apart from the factory premises or space which is required for the manufacturing unit, the general requirement and the requirement for the sterile product. There are few products are there which are sterile one from the ASU drug, Ayurveda, Siddha, and Unani systems of medicine. Just we will see the points to be considered under the general requirements and the requirements for sterile product, and thereafter we will discuss one by one the each point in detail. So in the general requirements, there is a need to consider the location and surrounding of the manufacturing unit, then the building, how it is to be constructed and all those things, then water supply for the manufacturing unit, then how the material is going to be disposed of, that is disposable of waste, then the container cleaning, that is the washing area, how the containers are being cleaned, then the stores for the raw materials, packing materials, and finished goods stores, then the working space which is being provided for the manufacturing of the ASU drugs, then health, clothing, sanitation, and hygiene of the workers, how it is to be maintained, and so on. Then medical services which is to be provided to the workers, then machineries and the equipments which are being used in the manufacturing unit, then the maintenance of the batch manufacturing record, distribution record, and record of the market complaints. And the last point in the general requirement, that is the quality control. So these are the points which we are going to consider under the general requirement. The second point, that is the requirement for the sterile product. So in this, whatever the general requirements are same with respect to certain changes in the manufacturing area and precautions against contamination and the mix-up. So let us move towards the general requirement. That is very first point, that is the infrastructural requirements. What are the infrastructural requirements according to GMP Schedule T for the manufacturing of the ASU drugs? So one should consider the location and surrounding, then the building, proper drainage system, water supply, disposal of waste, and the containers cleaning. So let us see the first point, that is the location and surrounding, how it should be, how to select the location. isn't it? Whatever the factory building for the manufacture of ASU medicines shall be so situated and shall have such a construction as where there is no open sewage, no drainage coming from the public areas and the toilets, no factory fumes, and no excessive soot, smoke, and dust. So whatever the location and surrounding is there, it should be free from the open sewage. It should be free from the public drainages and the toilets. It should be free from the factory fumes, and it should be free from the soot, smoke, and dust. Environmentally, it should be located in a good area. So this is about the location and the surroundings of the manufacturing unit under the infrastructural requirements. Let us see the building, how the building should be. The building should be compatible with the manufacturing operations and located where. So whatever the building which we are constructing or which is being constructed by the manufacturer for the manufacturing operation, it should be compatible with the manufacturing operations as well as located where the hygienic conditions are maintained. This is the first point. It should be free from cobwebs, insects, and the rodents. So whatever the building which is being constructed in the area, the particular area, it should be free from the cobwebs, insects, and the rodents. Then the adequate light and ventilation should be provided in the building. It should be constructed in a such a way that there should be the adequate light and the ventilation in the manufacturing unit of the ASU tract. The floors and walls should be free from the dampness and the moisture. Sometimes whatever the walls are there, they becomes a damp or they are going to absorb the moisture. So whatever the building walls are there, it should be free from the dampness and the moisture. The floors and walls should be even. It should not be rough, because if the wall is rough, there might be chances of deposition of the dust onto the wall, and that may contaminate the finished product. There should be the adequate working space should be available in the manufacturing area, in the manufacturing unit. Whatever the sections are which are made, they should provide the sufficient space for the working. Then the premises should be designed, constructed, and maintained such that insects and rodents cannot enter into the building. So building should be constructed in such a way that the insect and rodents should not enter into the building. The placement of equipment should be such that the risk of mixing, cross-contamination, risk of omission of the control step, it is going to be avoided. In the manufacturing unit, whatever the working area is there, working area for the manufacturing, the equipments are to be placed in such a way that the risk of mixing, risk of cross-contamination, and risk of omission, it is going to be avoided. The interior surface should be smooth and easy to clean and disinfect. Whatever the manufacturing unit is there, in the particular manufacturing area, the interior surface should be smooth, it should be easy to clean and disinfect. Then the flooring of the manufacturing unit should be smooth and even to prevent the retention or accumulation of dust and the waste product. Whatever the flooring in the manufacturing area, it should be smooth and even. So deposition of the dust or dust retention or its accumulation or the accumulation of waste, it is going to be prevented. Then the premises for manufacturing, processing, packaging, and labeling processes should be compatible with the provisions of the Factory Act. Whatever the premises are there, which are being constructed for the manufacturing of the ASU drug, processing of ASU drug, packaging and labeling of the ASU drug, it should be compatible with the provisions of the Factory Act. So this is about the building specifications which are given for the building under the part 1, good manufacturing practices, schedule T. Let us see the drainage system. So in the premises or in the building or manufacturing unit, the drainage system should be, or it should have the proper sanitary fitting and the electrical fixtures for the safety. There should be the proper sanitary fittings and the electrical fixtures in order to maintain the safety. In the manufacturing unit, whatever the furnace and the bhatti section is there, it should be covered with the tin roof. The tin roof is required, which will prevent the entry of flies, which will prevent the entry of dust into the particular area. There is a furnace and the bhatti section. It should have proper ventilation and the chimney in the factory. Furthermore, it should prevent the flies and dust in the factory premises and should have proper fire safety measures and exist installed. So it should have proper fire safety measures and the exits installed. So this is about the drainage system in the manufacturing premises or manufacturing unit of the ASU drugs. Let us see the drying space which is being given in the building or the manufacturing unit. There should be the separate space for the drying of raw material in a process medicine or the medicines which require drying before the packaging. In some cases, some product, the drying is required for the ASU drug. So in these cases, there should be the separate space given for the drying of the finished products or the drying of the raw material. The space will be protected from the flies, insects, dust, and so on by proper flooring, wire mesh windows, and glass panels or the other material. So this is about the drying space as per the schedule T, part 1, good manufacturing practices. Let us see the water supply, how it should be to the manufacturing unit. Whatever the water supply is there, it should be potable one. It should be drinkable water. So the water used in the manufacturing area shall be pure and potable quality. One should not use the salty or bad quality water for the manufacturing of the ASU drugs. The adequate provisions of water for washing the premises shall be made. We are using the water furthermore in the washing areas, washing of the equipment, washing of the containers, washing of the raw materials, and so on. So one should make the adequate provision of the water supply to the particular area. Let us see the disposal of waste. We are getting the disposal from the washing areas, that is the manufacturing area. We are getting the disposal from the quality control area, and whatever the disposal is being collected, it should be processed. It should be processed and then it should be disposed. So the waste from the manufacturing sections, laboratories, and the residues which might be prejudicial to the workers or the public health shall be disposed of after suitable treatment as per the guidelines of pollution control authorities to render them harmless. So it should be treated in a such way that it becomes a harmless. So this is about the disposal of waste. Let us see the containers cleaning. There should be the particular space given to the container cleaning of the container. So in factories, where the operation involving the use of containers such as glass bottles, vials, jars are conducted, there shall be adequate arrangement separated from the manufacturing operations for washing, cleaning, and drying of such containers. If we are using the containers and closures for the filling of the finished product, it should be cleaned before filling. It should be dried after cleaning, isn't it? So there should be the separate area. It should be assigned for the cleaning of the containers. And also after cleaning, it should be dried suitably. So this is about the containers cleaning. Let us move towards the second point, that is the working space. So in the working space, that is the manufacturing area, should be spacious enough to provide adequate space for manufacturing and quality control processes, and also for orderly arrangement of the equipment and material used in those processes. So whatever the working area is there, manufacturing area is there in the building, it should be spacious in order to manufacture the ASU drug, right? This is for the manufacturing area. In the manufacturing area, furthermore, whatever the equipments are there, it should be orderly arranged. There should be space for the keeping the raw material, isn't it, which is being collected from the raw material store in the manufacturing area, right? Furthermore, there should be the sufficient space for the quality control processes also, isn't it? There should be the adequate measures taken to prevent cross-contamination of one drug by the another drug being manufactured, stored, handled in the same premises. Sometimes so many batches are going on in the manufacturing area, isn't it? So many equipments are there being placed in one area, right? In an orderly manner. But there might be chances of cross-contamination, isn't it? And so one should take the adequate measure in order to prevent the cross-contamination of these products in the areas like a manufacturing area or the other areas. Therefore, proper facilities for the easy and safe working and for reducing or eliminating the mix-up of the drug should be provided. One should provide, or manufacturer or licensee should provide the proper facilities in order to conduct all these activities smoothly without cross-contamination. See, I have placed one table on the slide which gives the idea about minimum space required for the manufacturing of the certain ASU drugs. So very first one, Anjana and Pisti, it should be provided with the area of 100 square feet. For the Churna, Nasya, Manjan, Lepa, Kwatha, and Churna, the space of 200 square meters should be provided. Then Pils, Vati, Gutika, and Mathirai, space of 100 square feet should be provided. Then Kupi, Pakwa, Kasara, and Parpati, approximately 100 square feet area should be provided for the manufacturing. Then Kupi, Pakwa, Kasara, and Parpati and Satwa, approximately 150 square feet area should be provided. Then Kajal, 100 square feet, capsules, 100 square feet, ointment, Maram Pasi, 100 square feet. Then Pak Avleva, Khan, Muda Kallakayam, approximately 100 square feet. Then the Panaka syrup, Pravai, Kwati, Manapaku, 150 square feet. Then Asava Arista, 200 square feet. Sura, 100 square feet. Arka Tinir, 100 square feet. Taila Grita Ney, 100 square feet. Then the Ashotan, Netra, Marham, Paneer, 100 square feet. Then Bhatti, furnace, boiler, Putta, etc., 200 square feet. So these are the space requirement for the manufacturing of the particular dosage form in the ASU manufacturing unit. There is a minimum space required. to manufacture the particular dosage form. So this is about the working space. The second major point, that is the working space in part 1, good manufacturing practices, schedule D. Let us see the third major point in the manufacturing unit, that is the storage area. Let us see the specification. So the storage should be have the proper ventilation and shall be free from dampness. Whatever the storage area, these are the general guidelines. Storage area is there. It should have the proper ventilation and shall be free from the dampness. It should be provided independent, adequate space for storage of different types of the materials, such as raw materials, packaging materials, and the finished product. So whatever the in all total raw material store is there, it should be provided with the specific areas for the storage of raw materials, storage of packaging materials, and the storage of the finished products, as well as the storage for the rejected material. Let us see the different storage areas. Furthermore, the storage areas are divided as raw material store, packaging material store, and finished goods store. So the raw material store, all the raw materials procured for the manufacturing will be stored in the raw material store. Whatever the raw material which is being collected from the market, from the different parties, it should be stored in the raw material store. Furthermore, the use appropriate containers which would protect the quality of raw material as well as the prevent it from the damage due to dampness, microbial contamination, or rodent or insect infestation, and so on. In the raw material store, one should place all these raw materials in the proper container, isn't it? In order to prevent its damage due to dampness, due to microbial contamination, due to rodent or the insect infestation. So this is about the raw material store. So proper care should be taken for the stored raw material. One should use the proper containers for storing of the raw material. Raw material section, raw material store section, it is separate in the storage area. Let us see the further details of the raw material store. If the raw materials requires the controlled conditions, controlled environmental conditions. So what are the controlled environmental conditions? One should maintain the temperature and the humidity. The raw material store may be subdivided with the separate cabinets for the raw material of a metallic origin, mineral origin, animal sources, fresh herbs, dry herbs, plant parts, excipients, volatile oils, perfumes, flavors, plant concentrates, extracts, exudates, resins, and so on. There are certain raw materials are there which requires the special environmental conditions. So one should make the subdivide the raw material store into the different cabinets. We should make certain sections according to the storage for the metallic origin material, storage for the mineral origin material, storage for animal source material, storage for fresh herbs, storage for dry herbs, storage for the plant parts, storage for the excipients, storage for the volatile oils and perfumes and flavors, storage for the plant concentrates and extracts, and the storage for the exudates and the resins. So there should be the raw material store should provide the different sections, different cabinets for the different types of the raw material according to their requirement. All the containers used for the storage of raw material should be properly identified and clearly labeled with the name, source, and status under test or approved or the rejected of the raw material. Whatever the raw material is there, which is being reached into the raw material store, it should be their container, it should be stored in the proper container, right? Then whatever the container is there, it should be labeled with their name, source, and status as a under test, approved, or rejected. So whatever the raw material which reached from the market, initially we have to suppose to place it into the quarantine. Then the sampling is done. Its quality control department collects the sample. They will see all the quality control parameters, right? And according to that, we should label it as under taste, approved, or the rejected. And then thereafter, one should shift these raw material into the particular area. The batch or lot number and date receiving the consignment should also be mentioned on the label. Whatever the label which is assigned to the raw material container, it should comprise the batch or the lot number, date receiving of the consignment should be mentioned. All the raw materials to be used should be sampled and properly analyzed either by the in-house quality control technical person or by the government laboratory. Whatever the once we have collected the raw material, it should be sampled, it should be tested properly for their quality. Either in-house developed method, in-house quality control department, or the sample should be sent to the governmental laboratory. The raw material should be used only on approval after verifying. One should ensure that whatever we have received the raw material, it should be of a good quality. It is according to the requirement. And then only it should be utilized for the further manufacturing. And the records of all these things should be maintained for receipt, testing, approval, and the rejection of raw material. One should maintain the record of each and every step, isn't it? That is the record of the receipt of raw material, testing of raw material, approval of raw material, or the rejection of the raw material. Furthermore, all the raw materials shall be sampled and got tested either by the in-house. Already we have discussed this point. Ayurvedic, Siddha, Unani experts, there is a quality control technician person or by laboratories approved by the government and shall be used only on approval after verifying. The rejected raw material should be removed from the other raw material store and should be kept in the separate room. If the sample or raw material is being rejected, it should be separated and it should be stored into the another space. The procedure of first in, first out should be adopted for the raw material wherever necessary. The record of the receipt, testing, approval, rejection, and use of raw material shall be maintained. So this is about the raw material store. Let us see the packaging material. All packaging materials such as bottles, jars, capsules shall be stored properly. Once we have received the packaging material, isn't it, from the market, it should be stored properly in the particular space. Separate space should be provided for the packaging material. All containers and closures shall be adequately cleaned and dried before packaging the product. Once we have received, if we are utilizing it for filling of the finished product, whatever the containers and closures are there, it should be washed, it should be cleaned, it should be dried, and then utilized for the filling of the finished products. Let us see the next store, that is the finished goods stores. So the finished products are transferred from production area to the packaging area. Once the manufacturing of the product is finished in the manufacturing area, whatever the finished product is there, it should be transferred to the packaging area, or you can say it as a quarantine area for the packaging, isn't it? The packed products are then stored properly on the shelves in the quarantine area. Once the material is being packed, it should be stored into the quarantine area till we are not getting the approval from the quality control department. The correctness of finished products with reference to their packaging, labeling, and quality of finished products as per the standards should be established and should be checked by the quality control laboratories and the experts. Once the packaging of the manufactured product is done, it should be stored in the quarantine area. Then the sampling should be done by the quality control department. Whatever the product is there, it should be tested for their label, container, then other quality control parameters, right? After the testing, the approved finished products are sent to the store area and allowed to be dispatched as per the marketing requirement. Once we are getting the approval from the quality control department for the finished product, it should be dispatched according to the market need or the market requirement. The record of distribution should be maintained by the finished goods store. The special drug should be stored as per the specified storage conditions. As for certain products, the humidity and temperature needs to be maintained. So this is about the finished good stores. Let's move towards the fourth major point, that is the machinery and equipment. There are certain criteria, specifications which are given for the according to part 1, good manufacturing practices, schedule T. So the machineries and equipment should be according to the size of operation and nature of manufactured product. As in the manufacturing unit, if the capacity, we are running the capacity of, say, for example, for the liquids 10 liters, solids, say, for example, 100 kg. So according to that, one should have the particular equipment in the manufacturing unit. The machineries and equipment should be according to size of operation, according to size of batch, and the nature of manufactured products. The machineries available in the manufacturing unit should be manually operated, or they might be semi-automatic or fully automatic. Whatever the machineries which are present in the manufacturing unit, either they are manually operated, or they might be semi-automatic, or they may be the automatic. Machines or equipment for performing the crushing, grinding, powdering, boiling, mashing, burning, roasting, filtering, drying, filling, labeling, packing, and so on should be installed in the manufacturing unit. So whatever the, according to the product requirement, one should install the specific machines into the manufacturing area. Furthermore, adequate space should be available between the two machines or rows of machines for easy and proper movement of workers and the orderliness of the operations. If the proper space it is not maintained between the two equipments, there might be chances of the cross contamination of the product. The equipment should be properly installed and maintained by the regular cleaning. Once we have finished the manufacturing of the certain products, whatever the equipments are there, it should be cleaned. Equipments and machines are there, it should be cleaned properly. So this is about the fourth point, that is the machinery and the equipment. Then the fifth point, that is standard operating procedures, SOPs. See, we are using the various machines and equipment. There are so many working areas are there, starting from the storage to the packaging, that is the storage of material, manufacturing of the material, manufacturing of the product, then the quality control, quality assurance, and the packaging of the material. So there are certain standard operating procedures are there, and one should follow all the standard operating procedures. So proper standard operational procedures should be established by the manufacturer or licensing for the cleaning, maintenance, and performance of every machine as per the given standards. We are not going to discuss the standard operating procedure. So this is about the fifth point, that is the standard operating procedure, that is the SOP. Then the sixth point, that is the health, clothing, sanitation, and hygiene of workers. So the all workers employed in the factory shall be free from contagious diseases. Whatever the workers who are appointed in the manufacturing area, appointed in the manufacturing unit, they should be free from the contagious diseases. Or otherwise, what will happen? Whatever the finished goods are there, they are going to be contaminated. The clothing of workers shall consist of proper uniform, suitable to the nature of work and the climate, and it should be clean. The uniform shall also include the cloth or a synthetic covering for the hands, feet, and the head wherever required. In the manufacturing unit, fully the whatever the workers are there, it should be covered with the clean clothes. The adequate facilities for the personal cleanliness, such as clean towels, soaps, and scrubbing brushes, shall be provided. Then there should be the separate provisions made for the lavatories to be used by the men and women, and such lavatories shall be located at places separated from the processing rooms. Workers will be provided facilities for changing their clothes and to keep their personal belongings. So this is about the health, clothing, sanitation, and the hygiene of the workers. That is 6 major point, part 1, good manufacturing practices, schedule T. Let us see the 7th point, that is the medical services from the manufacturer or from the licensees to the workers. The manufacturer should also provide the following medical facilities. There should be the first aid facility should be available in the manufacturing unit, in the working areas, quality control department, packaging department, as well as raw material store. Then furthermore, annual medical checkup of all the workers should be performed by a physician to ensure they are free from the infectious diseases. There should be the certain campaigns related with the medical checkup from the manufacturer in order to ensure that whatever the workers who are working in the manufacturing unit, they are free from the infectious or the contagious diseases. At the time of recruitment, a medical examination of the workers should be performed. All the records regarding the health and the checkups of each worker should be maintained. So this is about the medical services and the part 1, good manufacturing practices, schedule T.